The Goons are back at it again on Crunch Time. Mad Max and Kruck are live right now.
All right, what's up, everybody, and welcome back into episode 54. It is season 5, episode 18 of season 5, so we're getting up there. We have more episodes out than I think Yellowstone does. I just started watching that recently, and it is a really good TV show.
It's really good.
It's more of a drama than my usual comedies, but I have kind of gotten into it. I'm also a big Kevin Costner fan.
Well, hey, there you go. I gotta watch that series. I heard it's pretty good though, for sure. So maybe you might have to hook me up, maybe with a little bit of information, maybe as we talk.
No, yeah, I mean, I've been watching it on Peacock, and this is obviously not an advertisement for Peacock, but I've been watching it on Peacock. It's not bad. But yeah, let's jump right into things while we got the chance. We're starting off with NBA playoff picture. Looking at the East, I'll tackle the East first. So the 1 seed Bucks the 1 seed Bucks are currently down in the series 1 game to the Heat. The Heat had to play through the play-in tournament. They lost their first play-in game. They won their second play-in game to get the 8th seed. And, that's tough. You don't expect them to do anything. Well, all of a sudden, they beat the number 1 seed Bucks in their first game, but it's a game. It's best of 7. So Giannis did go down, looking to see if he'll get back. The Celtics lead the Hawks. So the 2 seed Celtics are beating the 7 seed Hawks. They have another game, I believe that is tomorrow night, Tuesday. And then the 76ers hold a 1-game lead over the Nets. Their next game is happening right now as we speak. The Knicks, who are the 5 seed, are holding a lead over the 4 seed Cavaliers. And Max, I know you're going to want to talk about your Knicks, so go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, let's give the Knicks a lot of credit, right? I mean, they came in, Jalen Brunson, we talked about it. That addition that he came from the Mavericks, it's showing up big time here for the Knicks. And I think give credit to Josh Hart as well. I think Josh Hart, a guy that actually came from the Lakers, now with the Knicks, showed up big time, making some big time three-pointers. And this is going to still be a great series, though. Give a lot of credit to the Cavs. They kept the game close. Donovan Mitchell literally just carried the team, I think, for most of it. He led the team, it looks like, 42 points, Kruck, for Donovan Mitchell in the game. And they had, in total, 97. So it's almost about getting close to half of their points there for the Cavs. So that's probably going to have to change as going on in this series. But I'm going to quickly talk about in the East, that Bucks game against the Heat, right? I think without Giannis with the Bucks, I don't know how the Bucks are going to do.
No,
I really don't know either, because the Miami Heat are a team that is a playoff-bound team, and Jimmy Butler, we know him in the playoffs, is just outstanding. And I think also a guy, Max Strus, guy can shoot the ball from 3, is a big-time factor for the Miami Heat. I think if he gets going as well, I think the Miami Heat could upset the Bucks possibly. Now, early into this, we'll see what happens. Obviously the Giannis injury is big news, because I just don't see it with Chris Middleton and Lopez and all them. I know Middleton's a great second player with the Bucks, but I don't think he can carry a team like maybe Jimmy Butler can.
No, Chris Middleton, he can't carry a team, and honestly, he's gonna hate the comparison, but he is the ultimate Scottie Pippen to Giannis's Jordan, if you will. Now, Giannis and Jordan are 2 completely different players, but Scottie Pippen was a solid number 2, but he could not carry the number 1 role. Chris Middleton has had to carry the number 1 role before, and it's never been the games that the Bucks are used to. The Bucks are used to basically giving the ball to Giannis and saying, go. They're not used to playing close, tight games, and honestly, I just don't. If Giannis does not come back by game 3, I think this series might be a big upset.
Yeah.
I think the Heat might be able to take it, especially with Jimmy Buckets being on. Hero left with a broken right hand, which is not good. But, you still have Bam Adebayo. Oh, yeah. So, honestly, kind of...
It can go either way.
Could go either way.
The health, I've noticed this a lot with how the playoffs are started. A lot of players are injured here in the first game of these series.
Yeah.
NBA playoffs are going to go all the way here, possibly to June, July. So that's huge to know how the health of these players are going to go on as we go. And, Kruck, you just want me to go into the Western Conference here?
Unless you got anything else in the East.
I don't. I'm going to go right into it. And I think here in the West, right, I think Denver Nuggets, to me, I didn't know how they were going to be going into the playoffs. They kind of slid off a little bit. We didn't know how they were, but when they played the Timberwolves, they looked like the number one seed. They played like it. Nikola Jokic played like an MVP like he is. And also the role players around for Denver have been huge, too. I think that's also a factor looking at it for the Nuggets. But the series that I'm really intrigued by is the Sacramento Kings-Golden State Warriors series. I mean, this 3-6 matchup, I mean, the Kings, they barely won over the Warriors. And, man, I got to still give them credit, though. I mean, De'Aaron Fox just came in his first playoff game, and for the Kings since 2009, Kruck. That's crazy to me. It's been a long time for the Sacramento Kings. And they came in there, and they had no fear at all. And they played against the Warriors, which we know have a lot of pedigree over time, and people are probably picking the Warriors to win this series. And so I think it's for Sacramento. You got to find a way to keep winning and win at home, and you got to find a way to at least win a game against Golden State. Because Golden State, again, we talked about, they're really good at home. They struggle when they're on the road this season. So how is that going to be a factor? But I can see the Warriors win this in game 2. I think the Warriors, they're a team. They're just that veteran-led that they're probably going to find a way with Steve Kerr to get a game plan set up. So give me the Warriors in game 2, and then we'll see how it goes as they go back to Golden State.
You know, all dynasties at some point have to end, right? Mm-hmm. You look at the Lakers dynasty back in the 80s. Why did it end? It ended because there was the Bulls dynasty just starting. Why did the Bulls dynasty end? Well, that was more front office than anything else, but the Spurs dynasty began. You know, the Warriors have had this dynasty where you're like, they should win it every year. Well, you know, with the Kings haven't won a playoff game since 2006. They haven't been in the playoffs since 2009. Anybody who is anybody, they are not really favoring these people, right? Because, like, right now, the odds of winning the series are in favor of the Warriors. But the ESPN BPI is choosing the Suns with 62%. I think they're not the Suns, the Kings. I think the Kings are going to take this series, and I think they might take the next one. Because I'm sorry, but people have slept on the Kings too long.
Yeah.
That, like, you can't just turn around. You can't turn around right now and just be like, "Oh, I've always believed in the Kings." No, unless you are wearing unless you're wearing a white chocolate or a De'Aaron Fox jersey from his draft night, you did not believe in the Kings. I'm sorry. I know people from California, David Crowhurst, Ryan Albiani, people from California who said they would rather be a Kansas City Royals fan than a Sacramento Kings fan.
Well, they might have to change that up now. I mean,
I think the Kings have I think the Kings are going to beat the Warriors. And here's my hot take for the day. I think the Warriors dynasty is over after this year.
Ooh, that is a hot take. I mean, that's another debate I could talk about for another day. But I'm just going to quickly talk about the other games here, right? Because, I mean, the Lakers, I think they're going to take the series over the Grizzlies. I just, no, I'm seeing it because the Grizzlies are not healthy right now. Ja Morant, listen, in the first game, too, we don't know about that hand either. That's another factor as well. And they don't have the two big men. And LeBron James, when LeBron James is on and when Anthony Davis, when he is totally healthy, he is obviously a factor you cannot mess with. And, I mean, the other role players, how about Austin Reeves?
Yeah.
I mean, that guy is big time. I knew he was big time coming out of Oklahoma in college, and he showed up in the last part of that game in game 1 against the Grizzlies. So, obviously, keep an eye on him as a role player going on into these playoffs. And then, quickly, the Clippers and Suns, right? That game could go back and forth either way. I mean, the Clippers, they won game 1, but I can still see the Suns, and I'm going to put this going in 7. I really do. I think the Suns are going to win this in 7. I think this is a back-and-forth series. Kawhi Leonard, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. I mean, you got star power in this entire series. And I think whoever wins that matchup could have a good possibility to match up with the Nuggets. I think they're probably going to beat the Timberwolves and beat the Nuggets. I could see that happening.
5 years ago, Max, was Devin Booker in the league. 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Let's see. Man, I think he was, right?
Okay, 5 years ago. Name the other 5 big-time players in this series and what team they were on. I'll start you off. Chris Paul, 5 years ago.
Chris Paul wasn't he on the Clippers?
Chris Paul 5 years ago, I think.
I forget.
I think he might have been in OKC.
Or was he in OKC? Yeah. I forget because he was at OKC, then he was with the Clippers for a period of time. And then, now he's with the Suns. So.
But anyways.
Yeah, keep it going.
What I'm trying to get, Russell Westbrook 5 years ago. He was OKC.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Durant 5 years ago.
Wasn't it with the Warriors?
Warriors.
Yeah.
Paul George 5 years ago.
Is it the Pacers?
Pacers.
Yeah.
Kawhi 5 years ago.
The Raptors, right?
Raptors.
Yeah.
Now they're all on 2 different teams facing each other. That is insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people talk about the super teams kind of dying off, right? We have 2 super teams right here.
Mm-hmm.
You go up to the Warriors, kind of an old super team. You go up to the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers are one all-star away from a super team. They truly are. One all-star away from a super team.
Yeah.
The Nuggets, nobody likes to give Murray enough credit, but the Nuggets are a super team. You got 3 good players.
Mm-hmm.
The Knicks, not really. The Cavs, not really. You got the Brooklyn Nets, who used to be one. You have the Sixers, who they're still a super team. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you there.
Embiid is the head role, right?
Yeah.
There is no other Embiid talent there, but he has enough players around him. Like, you got Harden, which, I'm sorry, Harden's kind of falling off, but he's still a superstar. Then you got a couple other players who can just step up and do what they have to. Celtics, super team.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Bucks. The Bucks are the only 1 seed in the last 10 years that haven't been a super team. I'll put it on record.
That's true.
Somebody prove me wrong. The Bucks are the only team in the last 10 years to be a number 1 seed that's not a super team.
Yeah, because, I mean, people might say, what about Chris Middleton? Again, we just talked about a minute again.
Name somebody else.
Everybody
Grayson
else
Allen?
No, and he's
Brook
not.
Lopez?
He's not that type
Robin
of player.
Lopez?
Yeah, we're just going to keep mentioning names, but it's just that's not what it is. And, I mean, probably the most talented team out of that. I mean, granted, even though I saw them lose, right, against the Houston Rockets, yeah, that even was a game, right? But the Boston Celtics, I think they're the best team probably in the East. I think they are. If they stay healthy to what they are, Jason Tatum, to me, is just a transformative player. I mean, he makes the league different with how he plays. And the Celtics, when they're together, they're, I think, one of the best teams in the NBA.
All right, Max, I'm going to ask you one question before we move into MLB.
Yeah.
There's a 7-game series, and you can pick any 2 teams in the NBA to play in it. Any 2 teams.
Any 2 teams.
What do you think is going to be the best matchup? Maybe not the best 2 teams in the league, but the best
right
matchup.
Now or all the time?
No, just right now.
Right now. Okay.
All in the playoff. What playoff
it can be,
teams?
So say if I mentioned it's an East and West, that could still count?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, all right. So,
what 2 teams? You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to see the Celtics, and I want to see the Celtics and the Suns. I think that would be a really good matchup
that is
in the finals. I think that would be a really good matchup, but I think those 2 teams are just overloaded with talent.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, listen, I would say the Knicks, but the Knicks are a long way from even getting there. So, I mean, I agree with you. I think the Celtics in reality are the best team in the East. I mean,
it doesn't have to be the finals.
Yeah,
just what do you want to see?
Yeah, and that's true. But I would probably say I would play against the Boston Celtics.
I think that'd be a good game.
That's interesting matchup because Sacramento, again, we're talking about it, is just a youthful team.
Do they still have Bagley the third? Marvin Bagley the third?
I don't think so. I don't think they
Who's
do.
their big man now?
I think Sabonis is still there.
Oh, Sabonis, duh.
Well, yeah, but listen, here's the thing about Sabonis, right? I mean, he has to step up game 2 in this series. I mean, game 1, he did not have the game he wanted. But granted, though, why that series looks interesting to me, right, is because the Kings are a team that's with youthful talent, just like the Celtics. That's going to be an interesting matchup to watch because both teams can play a high-paced energy game, and I think that's something people want to watch when they watch, like, maybe an NBA Finals or maybe a series that could go to 7 games possibly, for sure.
Yes, I mean, you got... Let me check their depth chart. I'm on their roster real quick. I mean, you got Sabonis, you got De'Aaron Fox. They used to have Tyrese Haliburton, who was really good until he left. I believe he's on the Pacers now. I mean, this team is they're just going to outrun everybody on the court. You have De'Aaron Fox, you have Kevin Huerter, you have Harrison Barnes, who does not get enough credit.
Oh, yeah.
Keegan Murray and Domantas Sabonis.
Sabonis,
And I mean, Sabonis he is going to be one of the best centers in the league in about 2 years, if not right now. All right, moving forward into MLB, way too early talk. We are what? 16, 17 games in for some teams?
Yeah.
I mean, looking at it, the top 3 teams in the MLB, according to record, it goes the Tampa Bay Rays, the Atlanta Braves, and then the Milwaukee Brewers. So, Give me about 13 more weeks. How many of those names do you think will still be in the top 3?
I can still see maybe the Brewers and Atlanta Braves being up there.
You think the Rays are going to cool off?
I don't know. I just don't know about the Rays. Sometimes you get very hot in a season. I think they're going to like cool off here as we go on because in the AL, there's a lot of great teams that are out there. I still think Toronto and New York Yankees are still top 2 teams you can watch that can still bring problems to the Rays. And I gotta give credit to the Texas Rangers, man. I mean, we talked about this earlier in the year, right, Kruck? The Rangers could be a sleeper team. This team is 9-6 right now, and the Astros, they just played actually last night. I watched some of that game, Sunday Night Baseball, right? They beat the Astros 10-1 in that game. That shows you a lot of how that team is built up, and a team that just won the World Series as well. Now, I'm not going to mess with the Astros in total. I mean, we still got a long way to go, and the Astros are a great team. Who knows? They still might win that division. But, I think right now the Rangers are a team that could give problems, I think, maybe to the Rays. And we'll see, though, because the pitching's gone great for the Rays so far. But probably, to me, the Brewers are going to be consistent. I think the Brewers are going to be there. I mean, you probably got more insight than me about that, about how their players are. So I think the Brewers are going to be up there. And I still think Atlanta still got talent as well. So I still see Atlanta and Milwaukee being kind of those top 2 teams. Meanwhile, for the Rays, I think they're going to cool off your crowd.
There's 3 divisions that I'm going to say change up a lot before we get to, September, August, October. The first is the AL Central. Right now, the Twins are leading it. They're 1 game ahead of the Guardians. They're 4 games ahead of the Sox and Tigers, and they are 6 games ahead of the Royals. I don't see the Royals making a late push for the playoffs. I'm sorry. I'm from Kansas City. They're actually one of my favorite teams. Yes, call me a bandwagon, but I enjoy them. I like watching them play. I think they're a good team, but I don't think they're good enough to do anything special. They're just a nice, fun team to watch play. I don't see the Twins making it out of the AL Central. I don't see them making the playoffs. Out of all those teams listed there, it is going to be the White Sox who end up taking the AL Central. You can quote me on it. Looking at the AL West, I see that one changing as well. I see the Mariners getting an AL wild card, and I see the Houston Astros winning that division. The other one I'm going to talk about is the NL West. Right now, the Diamondbacks are leading it. That's a fluke. It is going to come down to 2 teams, and both teams are going to make the playoffs. The Dodgers are either going to win it or the Padres are going to win it. Whichever team doesn't win it, they're getting a wild card seed. Both of those teams, you wait till Tatis Jr. comes back. The Padres are going to be different.
Did you see him in the minors or
he's
something?
He's 8 for 8 in AAA with I think it's like 3 or 4 home runs. I mean, he's setting the world on fire.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know me, I still like the Padres a lot, right? I've always talked about the Padres. I think for them, and I've actually quoted saying this too, is that the Padres could win that side of the NL West just because of their talent with the bats and their pitching. And I still think the Dodgers, though, they need another bat that can help out with their offense. Yeah. I think losing Cody Bellinger
and Trey Turner.
Losing Trey Turner are huge losses for the Dodgers. And you can kind of see it here as we go on early in the season, right? So obviously, how is that going to evolve? Obviously, as we keep going on the season, and I mean, there's a lot of great teams. I'm going to keep an eye on the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oof.
I don't know. Listen, they're an interesting team to me. I think right now they're 9-7. They got a lot of young talent that is on that roster. They could be a problem there, maybe in the NL Central. I mean, St. Louis has been on and off the entire year, so Pirates, keep an eye on them. Maybe they get a wild card spot possibly as we keep going on into the MLB season, correct?
One team that I do want to point out, and I know this might sound like a little bit of bandwagon-y, but you look at the run differential so far, the Brewers have a 28-run differential through 16 games, which means they have won their games by more runs and lost their games by fewer runs, getting that 28-plus differential. That sounds like a lot, right? Dude, 16 games, that's a lot. The Tampa Bay Rays have a 72-run differential. That is outrageous. That means their pitching is on point, untouchable, and that means their offense is just absolutely lighting the world on fire. They are going to be a tough team to beat moving forward, and I'm really excited to watch them play. I think the Rays might be able to take the AL West, even with the Yankees there, even with the Blue Jays there. I think the Rays, this might be their golden year. They did it, 3 years ago with Arozarena's first year. They made it.
Oh yeah, I do remember.
Made it there, and I mean it was neck and neck. They ended up losing it, but man, I don't know. Like they're different. I don't even know how to say it. They're just different. So let's move into another. That was our regular season talk for them. Way too early. Postseason for the XFL is right around the corner. And Max, what are some teams that the casual fans should be definitely aware about?
I mean, you should definitely be aware of the DC Defenders. I mean, the top team in the league. I mean, they're looking at it. We just talked about differential for baseball. Their differential for football here is plus 57 there, Kruck. And that's pretty good. Their defense, again, they get after the quarterback very well for the DC Defenders. One of the top teams looking at it there for DC. And I think also, though, the challenge that DC is going to be is who they're going to play, the Battlehawks or Sea Dragons. Both of them still trying to look for that spot. Remember, there's 4 teams in each division in the XFL. 4 in the North Division, DC Defenders, Battlehawks, Sea Dragons, and the Vipers. And in the South Division, it's the Roughnecks, Renegades, the San Antonio Brahmas, and our Orlando Guardians, pardon me. Yeah, so obviously 2 teams are eliminated. The Guardians are 1-8, and the Vegas Vipers are 2-7. So both teams are kind of out of the picture for sure. But I think looking at it, St. Louis and Seattle are both fighting for the North spot. And both of them obviously going into Week 10 kind of still got easy kind of opponents, right? I mean, look at it. St. Louis has got Orlando at home. And then for Seattle, they got Vegas at home. So 2 of the worst teams, they're playing each other. But that head-to-head would go to St. Louis if it goes to that, because St. Louis has a better win-loss differential, and they have other stuff going in their favor. So I still think, though, Seattle, if they do play DC in the championship, would be a bigger threat. I mean, their offense for Seattle, I mean, Josh Gordon, I mean, we know him. You probably remember that name from the NFL. I mean, obviously, granted, he had problems that made him not play in the league, but he's playing outstanding right now for the Seattle Sea Dragons. And I think if he gets on point and some of the other players get on point for Seattle, Ben DiNucci, I mean, another name probably sounds familiar with the Cowboys, one of the leading passers in the XFL. So I think looking at it, Seattle could be the team that plays DC. And I mean, listen, the Roughnecks in the South, I think they're going to take it. I mean, how they're playing. Their offense has kind of been on and off, though, as we go on into the season. But I think, though, Houston is going to win the South. And looking at the North, whoever plays them, I think if Seattle plays DC, I think Seattle will beat DC in DC. And if St. Louis plays them, I think DC is going to win. So that one's a tough one, though, for me in the North Division, though, Kruck. So
I think the DC Defenders are going to end up going to their bowl game. I don't know what the exact championship. I think it'll be the DC Defenders because I love the running game. You know, you look at yards per carry for the DC Defenders. They're leading the XFL in it, and if you cannot successfully run the ball, and doesn't matter what sport you're playing, you cannot win that game. So I mean, look at Smith for the DC Defenders. He started in 9 games. He has just shy of 150 attempts, and he's got 747 yards. I mean, like, you break that down, he is averaging 5 yards a carry with 7 tuds, and 20 of his runs have been over 10 yards. 5 of them have been over 20 yards. His longest run is 7 yards, or 70 yards. So, I mean, honestly, I don't see that really breaking down anytime soon. Now there are some really good defensive teams. You're more of the defensive guy than I am, but when you have an overpowered offense, that's going to compensate for a weak defense. When you have an overpowered defense, you still need good offense. We've seen that. Remember when the Patriots played the Rams in the Super Bowl? The Rams had one of the best defenses ever, and the Patriots had one of the best offenses ever, and you know, everybody's like, oh, this is going to be great. Well, then you flip the side. The Rams on offense were mediocre, and the Patriots on defense were still great. So, you know, lo and behold, that Super Bowl was low scoring. That was, 13-3, if I remember right?
It was not exciting. I remember
it was not an exciting Super Bowl, but at the same time, they showed firsthand that, yes, your defense can be amazing, but you have to have a great offense to balance out your great defense. You can have an amazing defense, but you still have to have a good offense.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, you look at the Steelers, you look at the Ravens, annually great defenses. Back in their heydays. But how many Super Bowl rings they walk away with? 1, 2, if lucky. I mean, you talk about Ray Lewis, the guy who's literally carried their defense for years, and he made everybody else play up to his standard, and they still couldn't do anything because it just was not working out for them. And let's quickly move into our fun topic, Max. So we talked about it. What is the one album, if you were stranded on a desert island, you can only listen to one album the rest of your life, and it's not a greatest hits album. It has to be just a standard album. What's the album that you're going to listen to?
Man, listen, there's a lot of great choices, right? I mean, you talk about a lot of great ones. I've always been a fan of The Purple Rain, Prince and the Revolution.
That is a good one. That's a great movie, too.
Yeah, and a great movie. I mean, obviously in the name, Purple Rain, that's one of the biggest songs on there, but they got a lot of other great songs on that track as well.
Let's Go Crazy's up there.
Let's Go Crazy's on there.
Dear Nikki, that's kind of a slept-on one, but it's pretty good.
It's true, yeah. When Doves Cry.
When Doves Cry.
That is
so
a great
good.
one. I mean, I don't know, I've always liked, like some of the old albums, because obviously I grew up listening to 80s music and then listening to other Common music. I mean, also I liked, man, my parents have this on the wall at their house. It's one of the favorite ones I had, the Beatles' Abbey Road album.
No, that's a good album.
It's a great album. I mean, it's got a lot of great hits on there. You got, let's see, Maxwell Silverhammer. That's one with the name in there. Let's see, you got Want You, Oh Darling. I mean, there's a lot of great ones in there on that playlist. So I like kind of the old albums. So obviously the Beatles ones and the Prince one is kind of my favorite. What about you, Kruck?
For me, it comes down to really just two albums, and I'm gonna give my honorable mention. It's going to be TV by Ty Verdes. I'm more of a country rock, but for some reason the two albums I pick aren't country or rock. So Ty Verdes, he came out with this album in 2021 and then kept updating it throughout 2021. A couple of the ones that really stood out to me are the one that took over TikTok by storm, Drugs. It goes like, sometimes I do drugs.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That one's good. Something to Cry About, Bad News, Feeling This Bad Never Felt So Good. And then A-OK is obviously one of my favorite ones. But the album I'm going to give it to is Free Spirit by Khalid.
That's a good album. I like that album.
I love Khalid. And from top to bottom, this album is just, I can listen to it over and over again. And I have listened to it over and over again. I remember it was 2K, I think it was 2K20 or 2K21 that I put this album on and I would just keep listening to it on repeat because this was just such a good album. It has songs that are like Bad Luck, My Bad, Better, Talk, Right Back. I mean, how many baseball games have you been to where Tim has played these songs several times throughout the game?
It's like every game, almost every time. I mean, it's like what? It's like Better and Talk or like on that play.
And I mean, you can't even forget about Heaven, Saturday Night. Saturday Night's had a couple of remakes. Out of My Head, he actually did it with John Mayer. And then Don't Pretend is featuring Safe. So, I mean, this album, top to bottom, is one of the best albums Khalid has put out. Even though it is listed as R&B soul, I consider it more pop. And I just have to say this is probably my go-to album if I'm stranded on a desert island. So, with that in mind, go ahead and think to you guys yourself. Like, what album would you guys take if you were stranded on a desert island? Here's another one. If it had to be a certain type, would you do MP3? Would you do on your phone? Would you do vinyl, CD, 8-track? What would you do? I'd listen to vinyl because I think vinyl is just a lot better. And my boy Donnie Barry, who was on here for a little bit, he loved vinyl.
That's true. I remember he always talked about that. Man, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I always had a thing because I used to have an MP3.
Yeah.
I used to always enjoyed playing, songs and everything else when I did stuff, using that as well. But I mean, I use my phone too as well. I mean, there's a lot of things you can probably get using your phone and doing other things too. So I don't know. It's probably my choice for sure there, Kruck.
I know all the old heads are gonna say, "Give me the track so they can listen to it on their Walkman."
Oh
Man, the Walkman. But
Walkman.
hey,
that's 80s right there. The Walkman. That's like
absolutely.
yeah. Oh man.
So if you guys get the chance, make sure to tune into Avila Athletics. We're gonna have games coming up. We usually don't promo this, but it's actually a special weekend for me. I'll be celebrating my senior night once again with baseball. So I've been announcing here for 4 years, and they're going to be honoring me for baseball senior night. I'm super happy and excited that they're allowing me to do this. I already had my senior night with football, and that was awesome. But with baseball, I feel like that's just going to be the icing on the cake. That's going to be the best goodbye I could ever get from Avila.
I mean, you enjoy doing baseball games.
Absolutely.
I've been on the call with you a lot of times, and I know your excitement when you have baseball games and others. And man, I wish I was there with you there, Kruck, but I think I'll be doing softball probably this weekend. So we'll keep an eye and see what happens. But man, just know this, Kruck. I mean, you're one of my best friends, man, and I always appreciate it, bro.
Well, hey, you're taking over the reins next year, so
I am.
Don't start the waterworks on me because I'm gonna start crying. All right.
Oh man,
we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you all for tuning in as always. This episode should be posted soon, so make sure to set your calendars. It should be up by Tuesday every single week. We love having you guys. Tell your friends, tell your dogs, tell your neighbors. Doesn't matter. Tell everybody. Thank you all for joining in, and we'll see you guys next week.
Want to stay up to date on all Crunch Time episodes? Make sure to subscribe and follow on Spotify Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.